Hello, everyone. So glad to be here with you for today's keynote for the Best of Breed Marketing Summit on Martech Day. I'm Scott Brinker, the editor of chiefmartech.com, and my collaborator,
Frans Riemersma, founder of Martech Tribe. So great to have you here.
Well, I hope you all have been enjoying the Best of Breed Marketing Summit so far. Just some incredible speakers, who have already gone today. Don't worry if you missed any of them. We'll have this on demand for at least the rest of this week. But now, Franz and I want to dive into some pretty cool stuff, and then we decided to title this section, "What is your prompt?" Because boy, it was maybe a couple decades ago, that Microsoft, their big ad campaign was, where do you want to go today? It was a prompt to how you could engage with all the power that computing, well, at least Windows, could offer us at that time. But here we are in 2023, and we all have the prompt. What do we want? Where do we want to go? How many of you have already been using ChatGPT on a regular basis? Raise your hands. We can see you. It's incredible. And those of you who are actually getting really good at leveraging these prompt interfaces, prompt engineering, are finding that it actually pays quite well. It's changing everything. Boy, there was just a study by Forbes recently, that well over half of the people they surveyed said they would actually use ChatGPT instead of Google as a way to find answers to their questions. And Google recognizes this as the disruption that it is. They're working mightily, for what their response will be. And I'm sure we'll see some incredible innovation from them. I mean, this is just a part of how the world is changing. And as part of this, how marketing and Martech are going to change too. And that's why Frans and I couldn't be more excited about the timing here of the Best of Breed Marketing Summit. For us, Best of Breed isn't just about the best of technologies. It's about the best of ideas, the best practices, the best of experiences, that we can share and learn from each other to really celebrate the power of combinatorial innovation. Before we dive in, we just want to give another thank you to our incredible sponsors. We love them. We'd marry them if we could. Snowplow, Action IQ, Uptempo, SAS, Flywheel Software. This event wouldn't be possible without their generous support. Also, a huge thank you to Goldcast, who has provided the platform for today's event. An incredible, beautiful, wonderful platform. And then some of the data that we're going to be sharing with you here momentarily, we couldn't provide without the support from Clearbit and G2. We also want to give an enormous thank you to the other incredible, Martech, marketing ops, digital transformation experts who contributed talks today. Again, if you didn't catch all the ones yet this morning, they'll be on demand. There's some more coming after this one. Don't miss this opportunity to learn from this incredible cast. All right, so now we're going to dive right in. Three things we want to cover is, of course, the 2023 marketing technology landscape. We will then double click on three epic Martech trends that are spanning across that landscape. And then we're going to close out with a deeper dive into how marketing ops is evolving in the face of all these new capabilities. And so with that, Frans, take it away for the 2023 Martech landscape.
Yeah, thank you so much, Scott, for giving me the honors to do this, because this is one of the things you've been doing for over, I think, a decade, releasing the new marketing technology landscape. I want to thank everybody who collaborated, and in a minute you will see why. That was an incredible effort. So yeah, without further ado, let's have a look at what has been happening for the past decade. I think many of you know this image or use that in their slides. 9,932 tools in total. Last year, same time. What we thought would happen is that it would expand. And we all know what happened the past 5 months, right? So somebody beat us to it and said, this is the new landscape for 2023. Stephen Moody produced this one, and it's OpenAI all over the place. We thought he missed one or two, but then we used ChatGPT to figure out if that was true or not. So here we go. This is the new landscape. Well, you see OpenAI all over the place. So we thought, you know what, maybe this is a more accurate picture. So not only huge disruption, also consolidation. the consolidation we've been waiting for a decade. So here we are. This is new landscape 2023, just one logo. But still you're using, your tools, and they have not gone away, and they will continue to stay here. So how does that work? So we thought, ask OpenAI how many tools OpenAI thinks there are in total now in this year. So we asked Bing, and we said, okay, how many Martech tools are out there in this year, 2023? And funny enough, they were pointing back at us, at the work we are doing, all the work, validating tools. So I think we shouldn't wait for the answer coming from OpenAI. I think, Scott, you and I, we have to give the answer. Shall we do it? Drum roll. Everybody excited? Selfies. Here we go. Yay. 11,038 in total. And don't think that we just, put an extra number of tools in there. It's sifting through 3,500 tools that were submitted. We sourced them proactively. It's a lot of work. And we found 1,800 new solutions, but removed 700. So the net increase is 1,100 in total. But that 1,800 new solutions in just 1 year, it got us thinking. We look back at that overview we showed earlier, and you see that now this overview is like 11,038 in total. But we added 1,800. That's as many as in the year 2050. 2015, that is the number we had, 1,800 tools. We just added it now in 1 year. It's crazy. It has to sink in. It's overwhelming. And this is what we're doing with a huge team. So I want to thank everybody who supported. It's crazy. This slide, you also remember. Last year, this time, it was around 6,000 something percent in growth. It's now 7,000. I don't know where this ends. I don't know, Scott, if you can help us out here, but this is just going on and on and on. So it's too much to handle, not only for you, for us as well. So what we did is we put everything live in martechmap.com, as you know it. You can sign up for free if you didn't already, and you can just play around with all the logos. We have those nice filters in there, filters that help you find the right tools. You can search. This is exactly where Clearbit and G2 come in with their data, like how much revenue, how many employees, reviews, ratings, etc. And that is really a great asset and addition last year. What we did this year is the first new feature in here. It's sorting. So next to the filters, you see a button with an arrow up and down, and you can start sorting in any filter you have. That's step number one. The second one is that you see that nice chart button over there with a red arrow. Click that one, and you can just play around. In every subcategory, you will see, based on revenue, the pie chart that belongs to that subcategory. And you can see what are the big players, what are the smaller ones. And we know clients that say, I don't want the big ones, I want the smaller ones because more attention, or the other way around because there's a bigger support team. Have it your way. You can just play around. And it's not just one pie chart per category. If you start filtering and searching and sorting, those pie charts just play along. They just adjust accordingly. How cool is that? So here you see, for instance, if you look at all those reviews with 5 stars in there, then this is what you can see. And that's beautiful. So this really helps you to find tools and to play around, get a feel for it. But it's not all that we want to share. There's more. We also added a third button, which is called Stack Builder. And if you use this button, it will split your screen and it will tell you, okay, drag and drop your tools in there. And we did this for the occasion with our sponsors. So this is the stack Scott and I are using at the moment. You just drag and drop them in there, and it will tell you what your maturity, your tool count is, and you can benchmark a little bit with the market. If you want to have it specific for your industry, down left corner, just a pull down, you play around with, you select your industry and you see how you compare. And that is very helping in trying to understand how your stack is working, what tools combine, what is the maturity, how many tools do I have in every element. we want to promote the idea of composability here. So you get a feel of, I bring these tools together and get it to an optimal type of stack. Of course, you want to download it as a PDF, we figured, and maybe even want to have a small report that you will get in 48 hours, where you can see some more graphs and compare with tools and sections and subcategories and have fun. So that's all we did and all we've added to the martechmap.com website. Because it's so important to explore tools all the time. And what we did is extra additional research. We looked, for instance, at what we call the Martech supply and demand matrix. It's comparing the demand and supply in the 49 categories. So it's great we have all those logos in there, but you want to understand what are niche markets, what are dominant players, what is exactly changing. So here you see it. And we just wrote down some 4 key takeaways because there are 4 quadrants. And let's start with the monopolists. We all know that Google Ads and Analytics at the down right corner have a monopoly. And that's what you see. So there are few players and some are very dominant. If you go to the niche quadrant, you'll see that there are few players, but they're not that dominant. So those are highly specialized tools solving specific use cases. If you go to the upper right corner, you will see that there are tools like sales enablement and intelligence. They are really covering a large variety of solutions and use cases. And as a result, there are many suppliers in there solving that. So that's a rich, rich area. Upper left corner, nobody wants to be, because that's where there's no demand. Why would you go there with a lot of supply? So it all makes sense. And that's how we figured this matrix will help you. The monopolies you also see in the long tail. So we looked at 1,033 stacks and looked at what tools were mentioned, how often, in percentages, etc. And you see again the dominance of Google Ads and Google Analytics on the left-hand side with the arrows. On the right-hand side, you see a completely different long tail in content and experience. It seems like there's not a real dominant player and they have more balance in it, maybe because we more as marketers need a wide variety of tools that help us with content, producing content and collecting and nurturing leads. So that's a great insight. It also brings us to the insight that we produced an overview that's called the top 100 marketing technology capability heat map. It will keep you warm in the winter and maybe overheat you in the summer, but it really shows you what type of capability sits in what category. Why is that important? Composability. You want to know what type of center of excellence or capability you want to have in which area, and you don't want to have too much and too many overlapping areas. What we did here is very simple, just so you understand what this heat map is built out of. We have over 10,000 Martech players that we looked at the website and what are they saying. And we compared that to the text that you will find in the Wikipedia pages, which are represented on the left-hand side with all the capabilities. We used a bit of machine learning, and this is what came out of it. So now you see where are strengths and weaknesses in the different areas, what to look for, but it also tells you what are the most looked for or sought after capabilities. And guess what? It's about personalization. So personalized marketing is extremely important. And then you have customer relationship management, customer experience, and so on. It gives you a really good idea of what type of features should I use where and when. And we even went to a lower and deeper level, which is, for instance, on the level of marketing automation. We interviewed and surveyed 147 marketers and said, okay, within marketing automation, these capabilities and features are most prevalent. What is it you use most? What is it you like most? And what is it you miss most if you don't have it or it's not being configured for you? And then you see that if you look at the Likert scale, which is going from 1 to 5, that let's say at the level number 3, this is where we think, you know, if it's most liked, you really like it, and also most used, you really use it. But on the right-hand side, you see that this curve is going down. So there's a minority of features that we're using. And this is coming back to what we said last year, best of feature. We want to look at what features really drive value. You don't have to switch on a marketing automation platform altogether and make everything available to everyone. No, what features really drive value? And here you see an overall picture. So the question is now, what is exactly the situation in your company? And here, if you look at this as a industry of marketing automation, you see that all the dots are going from upper left corner to down right corner. So there's a kind of, a pattern there. Now, if we compare this relative young market of 12 years to an older market, you would expect an even better and more coherent picture, like CRM, but it's not, which is surprising and fascinating. So what you see here is that, again, a minority of the features are liked and used. So those are the ones that really drive value in many companies, but they also miss still a lot of features. What does that mean? Well, maybe we are looking for new capabilities because the market changed, our clients change, or maybe some vendors want to add extra capabilities and features in their suite. We don't know, but this is very important. So we are now at the point where we say, okay, what type of features are really key for your company and for your business cases? So like we said last year, this is a slide that we showed you last year on the 6th of December webinar, where we said it's going towards Martech atomization and stack aggregation. And that's basically preparing for composability. We're not composing only technology or just features. We're composing data and data points and KPIs and also content and assets. And this is the interplay that we have to find, what is the optimal? And it's not for an optimal for the entire company. No, it's for each value proposition. So last year we talked about atomization, not like all features, just best of feature, but what are those? And we looked at some of marketing business plans that seasoned marketing people really have been creating. I know this because those were my participants at the business school here in the Netherlands. And there were 23 cases of stunning results, huge ROIs. And if I looked at what type of features were they using and how many data points and how many content items, it's not that many. Forget about the dot. That suggests it's very accurate. Maybe it's not, but it's not like 10 or 20 or 100 features we need or data points. That's the point that we're trying to make here. It's just a handful of features that really drive value. So that is all about composability. And these people, those 23 cases, and we're continuing to do this research, those 23 cases we explored, and those people find that if they ask for €1 in their company, they get a return of 16 euros on average. This is regardless B2B, B2C, this is as a whole. It's even in charity and education industries that they find these big numbers. It's very, very interesting. So this shows you the power of composability, the power of looking at best of feature, best of data, and best of content. And I think, Scott, you're going to talk about, the data stack. You're going to talk about composability and other trends. Oh, please take it away.
Thank you, sir. Well, actually, as we just wrap up this section here, I also wanted to share with you a data point. The folks at Xylo, who are one of those SaaS management platforms that track all the different SaaS tools that you're using in your company. They recently published their most recent data point and found on average across companies of all sizes, they still have around 291 SaaS subscriptions. So even while there is consolidation in the industry and in the economic environment of today, definitely motivation to rationalize stacks, we still see people using a very wide variety of tools. And so this is going to sort of feed into, again, it's not just about best of feature, it's really ultimately where we head with this concept of composability. And that's going to be one of 3 epic trends we're going to dive a little bit more deeply into here. It is fascinating. I mean, if we look back over the past 15 years, I think most of us would feel there was tremendous innovation in Martech. Certainly all the rise of SaaS, the experience with mobile, social. I mean, this has dramatically changed marketing in Martech. But in many ways, those transformative innovations are really now more mature, right? I mean, like SaaS is the de facto standard. We're all engaged with our mobile devices. We're all very comfortable across social media. But innovation in Martech isn't over. In fact, we already anticipated coming into this year that there were going to be several other waves with AI, AR and VR, Web3, and of course, composability that Frans was talking about. They're actually just beginning on their innovation curves. And over the next 10 to 15 years, we actually think we're going to see more innovation in Martech than we have in the past 15 years. And boy, this year it sure seems to be off to the races right away. So let's start by talking about some of what's shifting here in the data stack. Now, there was some data recently published by the Winterberry Group that marketing organizations are investing more and more in data infrastructure and analytics. And this is speaking to a significant change in the architecture of data, certainly in marketing, but across the organization as a whole. Now, where we came from is for a long time, within marketing and for that matter, sales and customer service, every department had all their collections of apps and each app had its own database, and these became little like data silos. Now, there was effort here over the past 5 and 10 years to steadily move some of that data into a cloud data warehouse, but very often the cloud data warehouse was where data went to go to die. 68% of it was never touched ever again. And even a small percentage that was touched was mostly for limited analysis, with BI tools, typically, considerably time delayed, right? So not particularly like, directly feeding into operations. Things like CDPs were certainly helping with this, certainly within marketing of trying to like make it easier to share data, across these different apps. But that was within marketing, still sales and customer service were off in their own spaces. Well, this has changed. The cloud data warehouse has now increasingly become the true foundation, for so many businesses where all of the data is not only flowing into it, but it's now become a two-way exchange that through things like reverse ETL and composable CDPs, we're now seeing, data from the warehouse being fed back into those frontline operating systems. Business intelligence has become much more real time. The development of machine learning models from this data, and then the ability to, put those models into production in our frontline systems. It's making this, well, I don't know, if this diagram looks a little bit too complicated, here's the simpler version of it. It used to be that all this fun stuff we were doing in marketing operations, the data would, drop down a funnel into a data warehouse where it would just sort of sit. Today's world, it's much more of a flywheel, that this data from all these marketing operations touch points flows into the data warehouse. It is augmented, with other sources of data, and then, flows back into our frontline operational systems. And this couldn't be happening at a better time, right? By having this larger, more universal data stack, we're seeing that first-party data is now, we've got more of it at the exact moment when we actually need more of it. By having everything connected through the cloud data warehouse, it's creating greater portability across all these different applications, which busts some of these silos, And then because we're all working with the same underlying data ops infrastructure across the company, marketing ops teams can leverage the data ops expertise elsewhere in IT and data teams, and be able to get more from that investment. Now, this starts to feed into the second trend we want to talk about of composability. Composability can be about functionality, it can be about data, it can be about content, all those things, best of feature, best of data, best of content, that Frans was talking about. And composability, sort of the simple way of thinking about it is it's like Legos, right? Legos are pretty easy to like stack together. Everything just sort of fits, but it's really easy to reconfigure it. I can take this piece out, move this other piece over here. And I don't know, some of you might be saying like, well, I mean, just how much of a sophisticated thing can you build with Legos, man? Turns out, actually, you can build pretty sophisticated things with Lego blocks. This was, I believe, the world's largest Lego construction, 2 million some odd Lego blocks to create a, cruise ship replica. So, hey, you can do some pretty impressive stuff with Legos. We've seen this theme of composability now start to appear throughout a number of categories in Martech. We think about a bit for digital experience platforms have been talking about composability, how you assemble these customer-facing experiences. Certainly with commerce, there's been a lot of discussion, very much led by the group in the MACH Alliance. MACH stands for microservices, API first, cloud-based, headless, basically just like with DXPs, expanding that also into the commerce space to assemble, very custom tailored commerce experiences. And of course, we're now hearing about this in the CDP space too, right? One of our sponsors, Action IQ, has been one of the leaders, in composable CDP. The idea of a composable CDP is you can compose the data that the CDP is working with by also pulling things directly from within the cloud data warehouse, like a zero-copy architecture. And this concept of composable CDP has, been spreading throughout the industry. You've also seen it with the actual warehouse providers themselves supporting this: Databricks, Snowflake, Google Cloud. And I just want to maybe step back and give a bit of a picture of composability. So your tech stack, your data stack, it's large, right? You've got all these different commercial apps, and they each have some of their own data. They have some of their own APIs, hopefully. Maybe you've created some of your own custom apps in your business with their own APIs. Maybe you even created like microservices in your business that multiple apps use. Maybe they feed some of the things in your own customer experience. Across your cloud data warehouse, you have all these different repositories, of specialized valuable data across your business. You might be connected with other third-party data sources. And then there's all those cloud APIs that are available, from Azure and Google Cloud and AWS. Well, the beauty of composability is across that entire landscape of all those different things, you can pull from any of them to create specific apps or experiences or workflows or, data analysis pipelines, by, like the Legos, mixing and matching the different pieces to build exactly what you want for that particular purpose. This is a really powerful shift in the way we think about software. So for a long time, this concept of Conway's Law, and forgive me, I'm going to get a little bit nerdy. All right, a little more nerdy, I guess would be the right way to phrase that. Conway's Law, that the idea is a company that creates software, a commercial software company, right? The software they create tends to reflect the company that created, the way the teams were structured. I would argue even the philosophy and the culture of those teams. It all sort of makes its way in to how they design that software and what is produced. Well, when you think about that, that also leads to the inverse. We'll call it inverse Conway's Law, which for you as a software buyer, when you buy one of these commercial apps, you're sort of inheriting the way that company thought things should operate. And very often we found ourselves having to change our own organizations to better fit the way that software thinks we should work. Well, maybe in some cases that's a good thing, but in other cases, actually, right, we might want our business to actually work in a different way. And there's been this friction and tension between that. This is the incredible power of composability, is because we now start to get the flexibility to customize and assemble things across, our stack. It allows us to shape our software collectively the way we want to operate our business. So we're going to have inverse Conway's Law. It's coming back to Conway's Law, but it's our Conway's Law and the way we want our business to run. Now, how have we been composing these? Well, over the past few years, there's been a rise of no-code tools of all kinds, to make it easier for ops people, and to a certain extent, even power users, to be able to have these drag and drop interfaces to, create their own apps or workflows or data analyses. But still, as easier as this made it, there were still barriers of like, okay, you had to pretty much be an ops person or a power user to really take advantage of that. Well, this leads us to the third major trend. And obviously you knew this was coming. We couldn't have a discussion about Martech here in May 2023 without talking about AI more. And AI as your co-pilot is it's real. It is a really powerful thing. I mean, we've seen, boy, just over these past like 5 months or so, like the incredible growth in interest in AI and what this is going to mean, for business. There's a little bit of irony that we see all that growth in searches on Google search. Now I'm discovering, okay, AI, do I even need Google search? All right, well, sorry about that, Google. But right, it's not just, Google searches on this stuff. There's been an explosion of all these AI-powered tools. Some of our friends had actually created just a whole landscape of AI content generation tools. The folks at Sequoia created a whole map. There's an AI for that. I mean, just, plenty of stuff. Even like the latest Y Combinator cohort, like dozens of the companies just in this one cohort, are leveraging generative AI, across marketing, sales, and a variety of business applications. Now, super exciting stuff and bringing a lot of incredible innovation, but also a little bit frightening, right? I mean, and not just if you're Google, a number of people have been thinking about like, well, wait a second, whoa, what are going to be the negative things we end up wrestling with this AI? Italy actually banned ChatGPT at the moment. It's the short answer is we don't fully know. I mean, this is a process here we're going through of just sort of discovering, what the upsides are, what the downsides are, how do we leverage the one, how do we mitigate the other. And in some ways, if you know of Martech's law, right, this idea that, technology changes much faster than organizations do, we always used to kind of think of that as a kind of a little bit of a bad thing, like a constraint. Our organizations can't change fast enough. I actually think in the context of this tremendous disruption with AI, there's actually a bit of a silver lining to this, which is the fact that it is going to take organizations a while to fully adopt this gives us at least a little bit of time to learn and start to understand this and figure out how to adapt. Now, of course, with any new like disruptions, everyone's like, oh my goodness, the incumbents are totally screwed. We don't necessarily think that's the case. Now, that doesn't mean the incumbents don't have to pay, tremendous attention to what's happening, but the thing about AI is a lot of these engines, these large language models, foundation models, they're very commoditized, right? Anyone can get the engine. What distinguishes and differentiates is the data that you are feeding into these, and so actually a number of these incumbents who have, these incredible data sets are actually now plugging that into these AI engines to very quickly innovate. Just a shout out to, Clearbit and G2, our two data sponsors who contribute so much, to the Martech map analysis effort. They've taken their data sets, and they've now made it available, into like a ChatGPT plugin. And, G2 has its own bot that you can engage with, for getting help on making software purchase decisions. Seriously cool stuff. I mean, cool stuff. All right, so if you don't follow Ethan Mollick, who's a professor at the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School, you should. He publishes a ton of great stuff. But he did this exercise just about a month ago, where he's like, all right, in 30 minutes, using these new tools, how much can I get done, as a marketer? And he created this business plan. He came up with a set of emails for announcing it. He had to create a little website. He was figuring out what the social posts. And this all happened in less than 30 minutes. So track down Ethan. You got to read more details of his full story. But that was with Ethan doing a lot of the work himself. Now just even in the past few weeks, there's been a whole flurry, of tools like AutoGPT and Agent GPT, Baby AGI, Microsoft Jarvis, that take this even further, where it allows you to give as a prompt a sort of a higher level goal or outcome that you want. And then these agents are able to break that down into a series of tasks and use a variety of different services to execute those tasks one after another to learn what it needs to do to make this API call. Go ahead and make the API call, get the data. Now what I need to do is format it here. I mean, it's incredible. And these things are just kind of science fair projects today. They're not really ready for prime time. But this was just within a few weeks. I mean, the speed at which they're advancing is, I think you're going to see before this year is out, a lot of these like true AI butlers in a lot of real world production use cases. So a couple of weeks ago, I actually published a chart. I was thinking a little bit about, okay, we know these disruptions caused by AI, we've been talking a fair amount over these past few months about the first order effects, right? Like, AI generates content. What's going to happen? Well, there's going to be more content. Not only will there be more content, there'll probably be more spammy content too. Generates code. Okay, well, this is going to accelerate the rate at which software is created. So there'll be more software, as AI absorbs, content, and data, right? Traditional search engines, are being disrupted. But oh my goodness, the long tail of content and data that people can now access and leverage has grown so much. And then even as we think about using AI to do more of these like small automations for us, right, we can expect this massive boost to productivity. We can expect this chat UX, to appear everywhere. But those are sort of like the first order effect. What we think is really exciting is we're very quickly going to see the second order effects. What gets disrupted as a result of those outcomes? We don't have time now to dive into all of this deeply. If you want the full post is on chiefmartech.com. But it's this idea that actually it's going to change the relationship between buyers and sellers. Sellers are going to have AI, but buyers are going to have AI, and they're going to use this to better filter out even hyper-personalized things to like really take more control over the buying process. As the software explodes all over the place, well, here, I'm going to actually move to the, next slide on this. We're going to see more and more software to the point that so much of the software that will be created for these more specialized tasks, we won't even necessarily think about it explicitly as apps. Like when you ask an AI to create something for you to do a particular automation, it might create a little software app to do that. You as the user might not even think about it as an app. It just, oh yeah, I asked for this and it just, got done. And so, a few years ago, I was showing this graph about how, low code and no code, was making, the creation, the democratization of technology, more and more in the hands of marketing ops people and power users. This next wave here, we're already seeing with generative AI, now extends that down the curve, where really any marketer, any business user is going to be able to create, little software, helpers to help them get things done. And again, it's, you might be like, well, all right, it's not like, massive platforms and products are going to be created that way. That's fair. But if you think about it, like, even today, like the number of these like low-end use cases that previously were probably underserved, like it wasn't worth spending the time to have custom software built for this, because the need was relatively small and narrow. But now if you can just ask an AI to do it for you, actually servicing these low-end use cases becomes incredibly valuable. Now Clay Christensen's disruptive innovation curve, this is a classic example of it. Over time, these AIs are going to get better and better, and they'll move beyond just the low-end use cases to even mid-range use cases and eventually high-end use cases. But we think there's a tremendous value there. And that being said, there's one last thought I want to leave you with, on this piece, which is this is going to be a challenge for those of us in the operations side of things, marketing ops, rev ops, really any of the big ops, roles in a company, because we are almost certainly going to see a massive explosion in the number of automations and, workflows and apps and things being created by different users through AI, which is going to have a lot of value to it, but it's going to create a challenge for us in the visibility of even like being able to be aware of all of these different things, and there's going to be a lot of work that we collectively have to do, both as operations professionals, but also as the software companies that need to innovate, capabilities to help govern this, to help provide orchestration to it. Of course, wherever there's a challenge, that is also where there's a tremendous opportunity. So we expect we're going to see some great things, in the software world, to address this, and a lot of innovation in the best of practices within the ops teams. All right, well, speaking of ops teams, Frans, what's the latest of how that's evolving?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yes, there's a lot happening. And how are we doing? Well, let's go to the next slide. We're doing great. What does that mean? Well, we're very satisfied in our job and what we do. So a large portion is extremely satisfied or somewhat satisfied. And that's fantastic. And I remember a team building session I attended once, and we had to put 3 post-it notes on a flip over and say the key values that we think are important to operate as a team. And people come up with stuff like you have to be honest, you have to be respectful and loyal, and those kind of things. I just wrote 3 words. Well, actually one. It was fun, fun, fun. And people looked at me like, are you taking this stuff seriously? And I said, yeah, that seriously. Because if you don't have fun, your inner compass is broken. You don't know if you like what you're doing, and you don't know what feels right. You have to trust your gut feeling every now and then. And you go like, I'm marketing operations. I don't know if this will work. It sounds nice and looks nice on paper. So there you go. You have to have fun. And I think a lot of people here are having fun. They're very passionate. And I think if you look around to your colleagues in marketing ops, they're all very passionate, and it shows and it has results because look, they're thriving, they're promoted and not, every year or 2 years, but every 6 months or less. It's incredible. And yeah, we started thinking about, okay, why is that? What is it, a special breed or a special talent? Or, well, looking at the numbers of the background of marketing ops professionals, they're very different backgrounds. I mean, 50% is in economics or marketing, which is already, different types of breed. And then you have some that come from science, engineering, even IT or liberal arts. I mean, that's all over the place. And I normally joke like, yeah, we don't have a focus, but that's actually the secret. Because if you look at the article of Harvard Business Review, it's talking about cross-indexing. And what is that? Cross-indexing is basically you come from one industry, you learn about some principles, you go to another and you apply those because they haven't been applied there yet, but you make that link. So it's really making sure that what you learn here, you can use over there. And even if we go radically to permaculture, and we might come back to that one because one of the Stackies Awards donation charity goals we're supporting is in this area. It's permaculture. It's basically looking at, climate change is like we as humans have to save the world. But, what about climate and nature itself restoring itself, self-healing? And they're looking in permaculture, how does that work? And they found that there is the edge effect, where 2 ecosystems work, are close to each other. At the intersection of those 2 ecosystems, there's exchange, there's innovation, there's a learning curve. There's a lot of productivity. There's a lot of exchange happening. And I think that is basically us as marketing ops being, at the crossroads of IT and marketing and business, probably, inherited or innate of how we do stuff. So that's one of the key findings that we learned about. And we also looked at, this is a poll we did last year, we did it now again, and trying to figure out, okay, is marketing ops growing? Well, it's surely, but slowly growing, but Europe has to catch up a little bit. And you can see on the right-hand side that we are catching up a little bit because more companies now call their teams marketing ops. Still, there are teams doing the same stuff like admin, data, technology, but are called differently and maybe do not have a mandate yet. So that is one of the findings. Another finding is, company size. Does that have an impact on the fact, do you have a marketing ops team or not? We found that actually age matters. And it looks more like, young companies that grow big in a short time still embrace marketing ops. So maybe it's not so much the size, it's more the mindset and the legacy that they don't have. So this is one of the blog posts or the posts we did. There was a lot of interaction with experts like yourself. And they said, yeah, it's probably the mindset and less legacy. And that's really cool. And the question here is, how much are we contributing? What is the value of marketing ops? And we asked companies, marketing ops teams, how much can you calculate? Can you show the value? And a large portion can show the value. They can even calculate it or just give an indication. And even the ones that said, no, we can't yet, they say, but one thing is true. If we don't produce the reports anymore that we do normally, the company will have a problem. So already there, we're producing some additional and added value. That is really great to hear. So we took this to the next level, and we found out, we looked at the companies that say they have a marketing ops team compared to the ones that don't. And then we looked at what is their average revenue per employee ratio for the entire company. So we're looking at marketing ops being part of marketing, being part of the business, and having an impact on the overall company. And it looks like there is some kind of correlation. Yes, of course, with causation, etc. We have to look deeper into this, and it's ongoing research. But we wanted to share this exciting insight with you. So, what could you conclude here? You could say that the companies with a very good and a high revenue per employee ratio are actually, maybe because of marketing operations having a good ratio, or maybe because they embrace it and think it's a good idea. So that is, I think, what this number is telling. And what are we exactly doing then in marketing operations? And if you look at it, this great research again from Martech org and Scott Brinker, they revealed that the first thing we do within marketing ops is new Martech, selecting it, finding it, sourcing it. Then we do training and support, and we do workflow design. And if you look at that, that's only a small portion still, and already we have a big impact. So I love this overview of Alexander. It's really thought-provoking, where he said, oftentimes marketing ops is associated with marketing automation, but it's more than that, and it's more than Martech. So what is this green field doing? What else could we fill in there? And we did a little bit of an exercise together with the folks from one of our sponsors, Uptempo, and we're doing a town hall session in 2 weeks from now, free access and no recordings, and just have fun. And we came to something like this. Yes, there is technology, as Alexander pointed out. In his LinkedIn post, you will see that he's talking about, the next step could be also owning more data, having a mandate there. But then we also need to onboard people and train people. So we also have a mandate there. And then we have, if you combine technology, data, and people, you have a process, and you need to design your workflows. If you do that, you can talk about timing and time and resource allocation. You can talk about budgets. Oh boy, we're almost there, that we're approaching strategy and giving input to strategy execution. And that's where we can play a role in the customer story well told at the boardroom table. So this greenfield, we try to, draft it and show it what else is possible. We hope it inspires you. Because on the one hand side, we said, marketing ops is supporting the transformation of digital transformation. This is a slide from exactly a year ago. And we showed that we already have, as a marketing ops team, impact somewhat on the revenue per employee ratio. But what about the digital side of digital transformation, the Martech side? Well, also there we did some research, and we found, and this is research in progress, again, correlations. We looked at, okay, what type of Martech has an impact on people, process, and technology? And you see that there's a huge difference among all these different areas. So in this particular case, for the industry of consumer products, for B2C oriented, and then native advertising has an impact. Not so much the people, but much more the processes and your goals and the technology. Not so for product marketing or product management, where technology has less of an impact. The same applies to collaboration. I could go on for hours, but this is a wealth of information that gives us an idea of how do we drive value. Again, composability, how can we zoom in and be very specific about what drives value in the company? And the beauty about this overview is that we can take it to a next level and say, okay, we add 3 columns and say, what is your maturity? Because these correlations are linked to maturity, the 5 levels that you will find also in Martech Map with the slider, where you can say, what is my maturity? That is what you see here. What is it for the entire industry that I'm operating in? And what is the outperformer doing? So the outperforming is the one with a high revenue per employee ratio. And what am I doing? And where am I missing out? That really helps to create a stack that is rock solid and composable. So that is important, and we know where to put this, put the money where our mouth is. But we need that money and budget also from other people in the organization. And those are normally people that are really skilled and experienced in what we could call company technology, which is ERP, finance, procurement, warehousing, logistics. And it's all about managing units. And we have to be very careful. Those units, as a company, we control. But we as marketing ops, and we are not only in marketing ops, we're also in sales, we're also in customer service, we are focusing on customer technology. And in that sense, we are not in control because the clients manage their preferences. We're trying to influence it, a little bit, bits and pieces, and then, oh boy, they changed their mind. And we still have to make, our conversion rates or our targets. So customer technology is fundamentally different from what you see in company technology. We don't control it. And often this blocks the conversation with CEOs, CFOs, procurement people, and what have you, even IT. And often I am in meetings and in projects where people say, okay, just send me the end-to-end process for marketing. There is none, because the customer journey is not defined by us. It's defined by our clients. So we think that is very important to make sure that we bring that to a next level. And I'm publishing all the time also together with Scott and many others things. I'm testing it on people, on humans, trying new concepts. Is this something that people outside marketing will understand? Try to get a picture of what is customer technology. So on the left-hand side, you see a post. It went really well. So I thought, what? Why not publish that one and maybe write a book around it? So there you go. We wrote a book. Yes. And it's, let's say, our gift as marketing ops, Martech people to the rest of the organization. Maybe it sounds big or pretentious, but that's in essence, guys, use this book, read it, and understand that customer technology, which is sales, Martech, customer support, it's big. And this book will give them a bit of confidence, like looking up little details, definitions, numbers, long tails, pie charts, to make them a bit aware of what is going on in our market and become a kind of a sparring partner for us. Is that making sense so far, Scott?
That is awesome. Wow. Yeah. Everyone, what do they say? Run, don't walk to your Amazon store to pick up a copy. So, wow, man, this hour flew by, as I knew it would. I hope you've all found this, helpful, enjoyable. The day is not over yet. We've got a few more sessions, from great speakers and sponsors. And then an hour and a half from now, Frans and I are going to be back hosting the 2023 Martech Stackies. We had 36 amazing submissions this year. We're going to go through some of our favorites. We've got some winners that we're going to announce. And so take a 5-minute break here, grab some water, coffee, beer, if you're in that time zone, quick snack, and we will see you back in next session here in about 7 minutes.